today because Susie Powell was supposed to be our demonstrator, and because she couldn't come because her daughter had had surgery, I was dovetailed into this today. And so it's good to see all of you. I see a lot of new faces. I see, I'm not going to say old faces. that kind of gets things started right off the wrong foot. But anyway, it's good to see all of y'all, and I hope you'll enjoy that. And I'm just going to share with you what I do. I mean, everybody has a different stroke. Everybody has preference of color, preference of brushes, and everything else. This is just what I do. And when I was asked, when Linda called and asked if I would fill in for the demonstration, I couldn't decide whether I wanted to paint on paper or paint on canvas. I like both. They both have their own character. They both have advantages and disadvantages. But I chose today that I will demonstrate canvas. Oh, I don't need this. I don't know why. Also, I want to start, before I start, I would appreciate it if you don't ask questions until I get through. I talk through my demonstrations. Those who have taken classes from me know that I'm talking constantly as I'm teaching. I'll talk through my demonstration. I will tell you, if I tell you I'm picking up a blue, it doesn't make any difference what brand it is or what it is, it's just blue. If I pick up red, it's either a warm red or a cool red. You know us too well. Yeah. And I'll answer those questions. But when I paint on canvas, I like to establish the value and the color right off the bat. And I paint rather quickly. Some of you know that I paint fast. So when I paint, but I want that canvas to dry before I come back in and put the final details on. And that's the reason I want to try to get this finished so y'all can get home to go to bed tonight at least. So I want to get this finished this afternoon. And so it shouldn't take me too long. And that's the reason I'll ask all your questions while I'm waiting for the canvas to dry. I'm going to start out with telling you that I usually paint from photographs. And I have all kinds of photographs. If you're familiar with my work, I like street scenes, I like market scenes, I like most anything like that. And anything with a lot of color, and I like figures. I think that's action in a painting. So I just brought just a few things to tell you what I look for when I start to paint a street scene. I'm sure that you cannot see that photograph, probably from where you're sitting. But I'm always looking at the negative space. The negative space in a painting is as important as your subject matter. So I'm always looking at that negative space. And if that negative space is not important, I alter it. I'm continuously altering it. So when I look at a photograph, I'm not going to paint it exactly like it is. I teach a class painting from photographs. Photographs lie to you. They will not give you a good composition. I don't care how well it's made, it will not give you a good composition. There's tangents, there's everything imaginable in a photograph. So I have to go in and I have to separate those things. I combine shapes, I expand shapes, I enlarge them, I shrink them, whatever. Whatever it takes for a good composition. And like I say, these photographs, you're probably not gonna be able to see those from the mirror. I blow my photographs up, and like I say, I'm always looking at the negative space. I see what's going on in the negative space before I even begin to plan my composition. This is kind of the one I'm going to do today. I love the negative space on this. If you can see that, the way it cuts in, it's got a lot of it's an interesting shape. If I cut that negative shape out, the shape by itself would be an interesting shape. But I'm going to add to it because it doesn't suit me. I like what's going on. It's rather dark, which is a good thing because I can put anything on it I want. I don't have to follow it. That's another thing. I don't always follow the color scheme of a photograph. Here's another one, just a quick example of just a street scene. Most of these photographs I have are either family members have taken them, and I've had students that's traveled extensively, and they'll say, this looks just like something you would paint, and they send them to me and say, paint it. So that's where I get most of my photographs. Today, I'm going to do something a little bit different from what I normally do. I'm going to use this particular photograph. Like I said, I like the negative space here. And I'm going to use this as the negative space. It's going to be the white paper or the white canvas. And I'm going to add two. Now, when I paint on canvas, I always paint a study. I want to know, a lot of people who do, I'm on paper. When I started years ago in watercolor, well, in oil too, we always did value studies. There's nothing I hated worse to go into a class and they said, we're going to do a value study. It was like, I do not want to do this. I want to see the color. I don't want to see black and white. I want to see the color. So therefore, when I paint on canvas, rather than having to lift the color or whatever, I want to establish the color and the value immediately. Try to get that done as quick as I can. And so therefore, that's the reason I do studies. I do color studies, and I've got some more I'll share with you when we're waiting for this to dry. But this is kind of what I'm shooting for today. It will not be exactly like this, but this kind of gives you an idea where I'm going with this canvas today. And I paint with large brushes to start out with, 1.5 inch or a 2-inch brush, because I want to establish those values rather quickly. On canvas, I do not use pencil. If you use pencil and try to erase it, you're going to get it all smudged up. So what I normally do, I use a watercolor crayon. And the light sketch I've done today is just done with a little, what they call a rat brush. And actually these really are made from rat hair. But they've been sprayed. But anyway, and I just put in a sketch. I do not draw. I used to draw. I don't draw that much anymore, because when I start, I just want to sketch. I just kind of want to get the feel to where I'm going, because that's what the spontaneity of watercolor is. I don't want to have to stay in the border. I just like to start painting. And sometimes I change my mind just when the color starts flowing together. So, I've misted these colors a while ago, so hopefully I don't want them real wet, like you do with watercolor. Remember, on paper, when you do paper, remember when you put down paper, and you're painting on paper, you can glaze over it and over it and over it. You can't do that with canvas. Canvas does not absorb it. It lays on the top. So therefore, you've got to establish those things rather quickly and keep moving on. I am going to start with it on a little bit of an angle, but I may turn it down flat just for the drying purposes. I'm going to start right at the top. Now, again, I'm going to try to do something like this, but I'm kind of going to put it to the side because I don't want it to dictate what I'm going to do. That's called painting by the seat of your pants, is what it's called. So, this is, oh, by the way, I will tell you that I'm using Mijello, M-I-J-E-L-L-O colors. They are Korean. I ordered them on Amazon. I started using them about, was it a year ago, something like that? And I really do like them. I also use the Munsell color wheel. I do not do the primary color wheel. I do Munsell because it has 5 primaries: red, yellow, blue, purple, and green. And I have been using that color wheel now for about 15 years or so. And I find it, for me, my colors, I just can work with that better than I can with primary. So, and this is my color chart that I use. I either use triad or analogous, and today it's pretty much analogous. I'm using pretty much of a full palette. So, let's see what I can do with this canvas. And this color, when I mentioned Mijello, this is cerulean blue in Mijello. It is completely different from Daniel Smith or anyone else's, and I really like the color. And I'm going to begin right at the top. And as I come down, I want to begin to make shapes. I'm a shape painter. So I like to begin to make shapes. I can already tell I've got a lot of water in my brush, so I need to get just a little bit of that water out. Basically what I start doing, I just start, when the color starts going and starts mixing, colored shapes just appear for me. And I work on those. That's the reason I don't draw a whole lot. As you can see on this one, I want my subject matter to pretty much flow just in the center. I want the edges very soft. This is where I want you to look. It's almost like a symmetrical painting, but not quite. I've kind of offset it just a little bit. And to keep those soft on the outside, I'm going to be using some yellow ochre. I'm going to come on down, and as I come down, I'm going to begin to add just a little bit more, because the base of this should be pretty dark because it's in shadow. I like signage on a lot of the things, so I'm going to begin to put color out for signs. Oh, that's kind of nice. I also double load my brush most of the time. I like to lay down two colors and let the canvas or the paper mix whatever color they want.
So Beth, did you sand that canvas?
Do what?
Do you sand the canvas?
No.
Primed already?
No. Only thing I do is put alcohol on it. I treat it with alcohol. I love what this is doing. This is already beginning to talk to me. It's not in the drawing, but this is already beginning to say, oh, that's a really cool window there. That's a really cool, and that's the way I paint. And I love what it does. And I think the reason I like to do that, sometimes I think we get so caught up in trying to follow a formula, we lose our creativity. And that's the reason I just like to just play with it. As I come on down, I'm always looking warm and cool, warm and cool. I've got some red signs going on. I've got a little bit of green and blue there. So I'm always altering some of those colors. Let's put us, I need another signage out here. Let's do something like that. That's kind of nice, I like that. And I always try to remember, I don't always remember, to paint the edges. I try to pull the color that I'm working with on over on that edge. And the reason I do that is because the gallery and myself, if you're familiar with my paintings, I just put molding at the top. So I want to make sure I paint that all the way around, so when you hang it up, you don't have this white strip or a muddy strip or whatever. So I'm always cautious, or try to remember to paint around the edge. And this is usually where I forget, right here. Oh, I love what that's doing. See, I talk to myself a lot when I paint. It's not what I'm doing, it's what the canvas is doing. And as I come on down, I'm going to double load my brush with a red and an orange. This is Halloween orange, and this is a light red called light red in Magello. And I really like it. This light red that they have is really close to quinacridone burnt orange. And I've got a little awning right here that I want to put into this. I have to be very careful because I've got a bead that is gathered right there, and I kind of want to move that bead around just a little bit to keep it contaminating my awning. When I see this over here, need to add just a little bit of softness over there. So let's add a little yellow ochre to that, so I can pull that on over to the edge, and hopefully it'll behave itself and move on down. before I get into all of my figures down here, I'm gonna go ahead and establish this side of the building. I'm still staying with the blue. I'm not interested in where the sun is. I'm not interested in reflections or anything. I'm interested in shape and color. I am gonna change the blue a little bit. Now I'm reaching over here and getting a little bit of the Prussian blue. It's pretty close to what I've been using. And maybe a little bit of ultramarine. And I'm gonna make sure I touch some of that back there. I don't want it exactly like that. So I think I'm gonna put just a little bit of magenta, which is a warm purple. And I'm gonna add a little bit of warmth to that also. I drag my brush, and I always like to kind of pick up, I pick my brush up a lot. I'm usually double loading, and I like to pick it up. And the reason I pick my brush up because I'm leaving little white areas. It's what I call broken whites. I love broken whites in a painting, even on paper. Even on paper, those broken whites, if I don't need them, I can glaze those down. But getting them back is something else. So I kind of, and my broken whites are always interesting shapes. They're not just square and they're not triangles. I try to make them very interesting shapes, those broken whites. All of this little white in here, and that's the reason I tap up my brush. I pick my brush up and tap it because then it starts creating just interesting little bitty white shapes, different shapes. It's like confetti. Think about confetti. That's a good, I hadn't thought about that. Somebody write that down so I'm gonna get that word. It's kind of like confetti that you throw on there. Now I've got another little awning right here. And do I want to make that awning red like this one down here? No, I don't think so. I think that awning up there needs to probably be, it's got to be dark. I'm talking to myself because it's got to be dark. So as I come on down, it's got to be dark because I want all of the dark value pretty much in the center of the painting. Let's use a little cobalt blue. Let's change that blue up a little bit, and I'm going to double load it with some magenta. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Now when I look at this is, the blue on this side is a little bit stronger, it's a little bit cooler, where this one has begun to soften out, and I've kind of got, I kind of need to include some of my blues here over on this side. So let's just tap some of that blue in over here. Oh, it's looking rather lovely. Okay. And trust me, I do this at home too. I just don't do this for your entertainment. I do this at home too. I think, oh, Joe, bet that looks really good.
And it does.
And as again, I want to soften this out. Now, if you'll notice, this portion of my building is a little bit wider than this one over here. So I'm gonna make my darks come out a little bit further. But I think what I shall do, I think I'm gonna go ahead and establish the soft edge here. And I'm gonna put just a little bit of orange with that. Bless you. And now I'm gonna establish, I'll come back and I need just a little bit of quinacridone burnt orange over here, or that red. Oh, that's nice. And I'll repeat some of the blue. It's getting pretty green right there, so I need to come in and tap in a little bit of blue. Now, these broken whites right here, I may set me up a kind of a window area right there, and I'm gonna create something out of that. I don't really know what it's gonna be yet, but it'll be something. As I come on down, I'm still thinking about, if you look at the signs, we all know that all of those signs are not going to be that colorful, but mine are. Because that's where I'm drawing attention, right through here. So I look at that and I think, well, I've got some reds and all that kind of stuff. So, and I've got a cool right here. I need I need a warm right there. So I probably will pick up just some yellow and maybe a touch orange. I'm double loading my brush. And let's make a sign like that. Yeah. That will help repeat these colors here. I'm always looking at the color. I'm always trying to not only the value of the color, I'm looking where I need to distribute that color. I don't want all the blue over here and all the warm over there. And it doesn't make any difference if I'm doing a street scene, florals, or whatever. I'm always conscious of those colors, keeping those colors. If I've got one color over here, I'm gonna make sure I repeat it somewhere else. And it may not be but just a small section, but I'm gonna repeat it somewhere. Now as I begin to come on down, and like I say, I really don't want to get caught up with that because I cannot repeat that. How many of you have ever tried to repeat a watercolor? It's not happening. It is not happening. I don't care how hard you try, there is no way you can ever repeat it again, because with watercolor, loading that brush with water and pigment makes all the difference in the world, and you can't load it the same way twice when you start back. So I think that's the reason I paint like I do. It's like, oh well, so what? Let's just do it. Now I kind of want to repeat some of this blue back over in here, because I don't want all of this to repeat down here, because I need to repeat some of that back over here. So I'm going back to cerulean blue, and let's see where I want this. Oh, maybe I need a suggestion of maybe a sign down here. And I think I'm going to begin to add a little bit of green in some of these areas. I'm going to put signage. I've already written, or I haven't written, I've made some lettering right here. So this is going to be some signage right here. And if I make it red or anything, I'm probably going to want this area here rather a lighter value. So I'm just going to join some of those colors together. I don't want too many broken whites. Oh, that's kind of a nice shape right there, but it's too square. So let's just break that up just a little bit. I like that shape better. I really haven't paid just a whole lot of attention to my drawing. I've paid more attention just to the shapes, those colored shapes I'm making. That's one reason I don't draw. I just kind of sketch in my subject and kind of call it what it is. I don't want red here and red there. So one thing nice about canvas, I use cosmetic sponges. They're real soft and they don't cut the canvas. I'm going to lift that up. So far, I'm happy with everything. If I hadn't been, I would have already been lifting, but I'm not real crazy about that warm right there, so I'm going to lift that. Now let that dry just a little bit as I come on down. Now this is kind of beginning to dry. I don't think I have to tilt it too much. Another thing about canvas, I like it. I do this with paper a lot, but with canvas, I like to kind of roll those beads around and let them make their own neutrals, their own color. But you have to really be careful, because when you do that, if you've got another wet area, I don't know how many times I've worked over here and got it just right and looked over here and this is totally lost. So you have to kind of do that in sections. You kind of have to let it dry a little bit and let it set and season and then go on with it. And I'm not real happy with that, but I'm not going to correct that right now. Oh, well, that's kind of nice. Let's just do that. Now, as I remember, I was talking about negative shapes. I'm looking at this negative shape. Look how boxy that is. I don't like that. It's just, it needs something. So I'm going to have enough signage down here that, well, I don't know. It may be just a real small little sign that's way up there, or I think I'm going to repeat. It's got a balcony. We're playing like this has the balcony. Don't you just love that? When you was a kid, you remember when you played like? Let's play like that does it. So let's play like this is a balcony up here. What color do I want that balcony? I'm gonna add some of this ultramarine blue over there. I kinda need to carry it to that side, so let's make balcony over here. There we go. That's kinda nice. I can handle that, that'll work. Yeah. But I still need, I still need something there because I'm looking at the shape. I'm not real crazy about that shape in there. So, I think I'm gonna take a smaller brush.
I have some.
Oh, listen. Listen, all my students, Jane. Everybody, I have to go around and say, that brush is way too small. Get a bigger brush. I'm a big brush person. Yeah. So I'm gonna put a sign up there, and I'm working with, this is all cool. I probably need something in the warm nature, in the warm area. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to repeat some of this green over on that side. So let's make just a little sign right here. Let's make it uneven. That'll be good. That's okay. Okay. Now I've got to come on down here. I'm anxious. I'm ready to get this done so I can do my figures. One thing I'm going to do with my figures right now while it's dry, always your figures need to be on the same plane. All the heads of my figures are straight. They're all the way across. Some of them are going to be in the distance. They're going to be smaller. Some are going to be closer to me. They're going to be larger. But I try to get them all on the same plane so they don't look like they're standing on one another's shoulders. So I'm gonna have one here, two small, a couple of small back there, and this one, and maybe one right here. Those are gonna be my figures. So as I come on down, begin to come down, I'm conscious of that. So I wanna make sure that I paint around them. Now, to get on down to them, I'm gonna go back to my larger brush. I think I'm going to barely, I can repeat some of this kind of over in this area. Remember, I'm gonna put some signage on, probably on some of this, and maybe not. That's kind of what my plan was, but it's my painting and I can change it if I want to.
There's a song similar to that.
Do I?
There's a song similar to
I know. I'm using Prussian blue, and I'm going to paint around the top of my figures so I can begin to pop them out. And I've got to tend with my negative space coming here. I want to continue. This is just gonna have line work down here, so I still want this soft as it comes out to the edge. I probably need to make just a little bit of pattern with this blue up here. Where I'm going with this, I want this to have reflections down through here. So I'll pick up some of the blue at the top. Yeah, let's make some shadows across here. And we need some warm in it. I want to pull some of these shapes together. I like broken whites, but I'm going to put some suggestions of doors in this area. So with a line brush when this gets dry. And I need to darken over here under this awning. And I'm going to use the ultramarine blue down here. So I'll repeat that color. I don't want it isolated up there. And I'm not going to go too far with that because I'm going to change color and I need a smaller brush, another smaller brush. Can you believe that? because I'm pretty well getting close to putting my figures in. I love doing the figures. Okay, when I get off down here, I want to just have some fun down here. So I'm just gonna draw the eye into the painting down here. And I need to repeat that and some of that. So we may be having some reflections down here with some of that going on. No one can say I do not like color. There's a triangle right there. I don't want a triangle, so I'll just kind of, one thing nice about this, a lot of the times, I just kind of play with these corners or whatever, knowing that I can come back with my sponge and pick that up. As long as I stay light, it's not gonna stain it. All right, now let's work with my figures.
Jo Beth, would you mind moving the canvas this way a little bit? Yeah. On the front row, we're having a little
Oh,
trouble
well,
seeing.
holler at me with, yeah,
There you
is that
go.
better?
That's better, thank you.
You're welcome. Now my figures, I've got a lot of color going on, and I could make them, I could just gray them down. They could just have gray clothes and all that kind of stuff, and let this be the most important part, but I still think my figures need to be brought out with some color. I have not used a lot of red except over here. So this figure over here, I want to bring that red over onto this side. I've got red here and some red there, so this figure is gonna have red. And I'm gonna double load my brush. This is just a true red. It's just a true red. And I'm gonna double load it with orange because I want it to look like it's got a little bit of highlight on it. If I loaded it with yellow, that's gonna make orange, so I just won't, just barely touch it. And let's put up, this person's got a whatever red. Oh, that's nice. And I use neutral tint. I don't use black. I like neutral tint. Neutral tint is a great mixer for any color. It can gray things down softly, easily, and not just kill the color. Okay, let's put some suggestion of legs on that person. And maybe a hand, something down there. And I'll go ahead and establish the shadow so I know where he's at. There he is. And then I'll begin to look at the colors I've already got going. I'm gonna gray some of these figures down. I haven't used a lot of turquoise, believe it or not. and I'm gonna put turquoise right next to this red because turquoise and red are complementary of one another according to my Munsell color wheel. Let's put some blue with that. And a shadow. And a hand, maybe. This one needs to come down just a little bit further. Now I've got another figure over here. I'm gonna get my larger figures in first because I'll go to a little bit smaller brush to put in those. And I'm still looking at the color. I don't have a lot of green over here. And when I look at this, I could repeat a little green over there so it keeps everything kind of unified. But I'm gonna change that green. I don't want it to be the same green. I think I'll put just a little bit of blue with that. And this person maybe has a vest on. Let's don't make all of them, they didn't buy all their clothes at the same place, so let's. And I'll put a shadow with him. I always set things down. The minute I make anything, whether it's flowers, pots, or whatever, that shadow goes down instantly. Now, all these figures, the rest of those figures, I've got enough color, so let's just neutralize some of those. And I've kept my puddles fairly clean. So now I'm just gonna go in and I'm just gonna touch in, and I do not mix cake batter. This is cake batter. You want all the lumps out of it, and you wind up with a really nasty color. What I like to do, when I'm mixing neutrals, I push the color together. Even though I want a neutral, a cool gray, warm gray, whatever, even though I want a neutral, I want you to be able to see those two colors. And these figures in the back, they just have to have a dot and a dash. They're not important. I just need to fill up space. Let's see. I really like magenta and turquoise. This is Andrew's turquoise and magenta kind of pushed together. They make really a pretty, really nice gray. And I like to hook my figures together. A group of people walking together are always connected. So I like to keep my figures connected. And there's the shadow. And do I need any more figures? I've got space for them. I may put another one right there, I guess. And I'm gonna repeat. Oh, he needs some warm on him or something. He needs something. I've got a lot of blue and yellows around there, and let's see what I can come up with. I'm just gonna barely put a little color on him, just so you know that there's somebody walking there. He's walking fast, so you wouldn't see much of him anyway. I think that's pretty well established that. I've got to, if I'm not going to put a figure over here, I need to come back in and take down that white space. Now that I've pretty well established everything, and I'm happy with that, I've still got some beads. I've got an issue right here, but I'm going to try to correct that maybe with some line work. I try to remind myself, when we're painting, we always want to correct too soon. We want the finish, we want to see finish right off the bat, and sometimes I correct too soon, and then I wished I had it back. So, I do know that this needs to be a little bit brighter red. And when this dries, I will come back and do some line work and a few more little darker shapes here and there. This already needs to be darker up here. Do something like that. I'm not real happy with this corner. Because I decided to take that figure out. I'm going to take that corner off right now so it will be dry when I get ready to come back. And I'm just going to soften it with some yellow. Wait a minute, and I'll go with you. I'm to the point now that I've done this, now what am I going to do? So. I like that better. And I want to make sure the edges kind of get some of that color down. I can come back and reclaim him. Okay, I'm going to start with line work.
What again?
I can. And when I do line work, I'm gonna do, like I said before, when I do line work, I can use a pen, pencil, Tombow pens are fun. There's all kinds of pens, all kinds of little bitty brushes, but when I start with doing line work, I like to use a brush because it's more flexible. You know, when you use a pen, it's not quite as flexible as a brush, and because I try to tell my students that when you do line work, I'm not talking about a color book line, I'm talking about an expressive line. So therefore, I like to use, where's my little rat brush? Here it is. I usually use this little brush, something that is, it's got a real fine, a sharp point on it. And if you use one with too long a hair, it's too flexible. So this one's just about right. And I like to use neutral tint. The reason I like to use neutral tint is because it's not as harsh as black. So neutral tint works really great for the line work that I do. Now when I start back with line work, when I turned around and looked at this, I thought, oh my goodness, we sure did good color today, didn't we? So, but I'm gonna leave it just like it is. I'm gonna see if I can't pull it out with some line work, and I will go back in with a few more shapes. And I'm gonna start at the top. Did you tell me to push that up a little bit? Did somebody say that?
Yes.
Is that good? So
Could even maybe just a little bit,
do I?
a little more.
Is that good?
That's good.
So I'm going to start with line work, and when I start with line work, I'll start at the top and just work down. And like I say, I'm creative with my line work. I'm not going to follow my drawing that I had because my painting has nothing like my drawing was, which is fine with me. It doesn't bother me at all. So I've got neutral tint, and I'm using very little water. I have to have enough water for it to move the paint, but I don't want a lot of water right now because you do know that it dries, it's going to dry way too light. So I'm going to get that just about right, and I'm going to start at the top. And when I do line work, I like to do something like that. I want it to be, like I say, expressive. These buildings, they have all kinds of stuff coming off them here and there. I'm doing that to connect it to the top. I'm gonna do the same thing. Is my head in the way if I do this?
No.
Not yet, anyway.
No.
Remember the little balcony I put on? There's my balcony. Here's the support. And it may have, over there next to that balcony, see all that white I left? I love that. If it's way up top, you probably wouldn't know what all it was. If you were walking along, you'd just see all that light and everything. So I think what I'm gonna do, first of all, I've got enough color. There's no point in putting color up there. So I'm gonna use just a little bit of line work here. I wanna draw your attention to that, but I don't want you to stay there a long time. I want you just to say, oh, I wonder what that is. That's kind of cool. Let's see what that is. There we go. I like that. That kind of looks like a sign, doesn't it? I'm still using neutral tint all the way through. Right here, I think I need just a little bit of, I'll use some of the blue, and I'm just picking it up on one corner of my brush. And I want to suggest that there's some windows up there. That's all it needs, just a suggestion. I've got a little circle here. I have no idea how I came up with that, but let's do something like this. I'm not really sure that I'm going to, over here on this one, I put these windows here. And when I'm talking about value, when I looked at this, like I say, this was my study. When I looked at this, I thought those windows are very distractive to me because of not only the color, but just the value of them. So I'm gonna eliminate this. I've got some white right here that I'll do something with that. But that that's the reason studies are always good, because you can say, I don't like that, or I need to increase that, or I need to plate that up. I've got that broken white here again, so I'm just suggesting things. As I come on down, I've got this cute little thing here. I have no idea what it is. It must be somebody's balcony. And if I don't put something under it, it's gonna fall off. This is the most fun part. Well, I don't know. I like putting the color down too. Now this is going to be a sign, and I just put lettering on the sign. Now if they want to pay me to advertise, I'll put their logo on there. But if they're not going to pay me for it, I am not putting their logo. So I just make just lettering or just a shape or two. And this could be, well, I guess I need to put it in. This could be, I really don't care what it is. Let's just do something like that. I've got some interesting shapes here. I told y'all I was a shape painter. I love shapes, and so I like to look at that shape and what does that shape say to me? What can I do with that shape? If I didn't like the shape, I would probably either lift it with a sponge, or I would come back with some paint and get rid of it. I'm just going to put a circle or two on it, a dot and a dash, and let you make up your mind what you want it to be.
With your sponge, till after you use alcohol or water?
Oh no, it's just water. Only time I use alcohol is when I'm washing the canvas off. I probably should have told you that before.
Remove the stain that's on it?
Yes. A canvas, most of your canvases come with kind of a sealant on them. And I have found that if I take alcohol and wash that off, and I just spray it with alcohol and take a paper towel or sponge and just kind of go around all the edges, it kind of takes that surface off, just like your paper has sizing on it. Some canvases do also. I do not like watercolor canvas. Watercolor canvas, now, and like I say, it's me personally. Watercolor canvas is smooth, and I like a texture. This has more texture to it. This is just plain, cheap, 100% cotton canvas.
All media? Is
Do
that
I?
the way it's labeled in the store, all media, or no?
Yeah, sometimes it says all
Yeah.
media, yeah, but just as long as it's cotton. You don't want linen. Linen is
Right.
oil painters. But just as long as it's cotton, 100% cotton canvas. And every brand has a different texture to it. And I just like texture because I just like the look of the texture. Also, I think I'm gonna try white on that red. This is Doc Martens bleed proof white. I don't use gouache, but I like this bleed proof white, and I always have to look at it because I was calling it blood proof, and it just sounds terrible. Bleed proof white. So, but I like it. I like it better than gouache.
Why do you like it better than gouache?
Because gouache is flat, and this doesn't have a tendency to be flat. I'm gonna put some white lettering on this red sign there. I'm gonna leave it open because I'm gonna use some white here and there on some other things. Okay, I'm just kind of playing this by ear. As I come on down, I'm still looking at shapes, interesting shapes, just kind of see what I want to do with these. I probably would need to begin to suggest some kind of window treatment or just suggestion of doors, windows. I may have to do that with a bigger brush. now that I've already established that. And I'm using quinacridone burnt orange or some of that light red. I'm gonna come back and put a few darks into that. Put some shadows inside that door, or that opening. I'm also gonna put just a few suggestions of windows. Probably I need to balance over here. That's a good place for one. Again, I'm trying to stay, I don't want just a whole lot going on the outer part. I want the major, the color and the contrast to be right up the center. The center, not the center. Be careful sometimes of all that. And again, I'm just kind of beginning to put just a little bit of information here and there on some of the signage. I probably shouldn't be rushing. I really don't paint. After I get to this point, I really don't paint this fast if I'm at home. I kind of take my time a little bit more to make things a little bit more clear, maybe I should say. But I would like to kind of get this to some form of completion. I want to suggest that maybe this could be a cafe, or it could be all kinds of stuff. So I'm picking up some red. I'm gonna repeat some of my red. And my colors are getting dry here. And I'm gonna put just some kind of interesting signage. And I really don't care what it says, just as long as it looks like something. And I don't like that. So I'm just gonna gently pick that streak up right here. And I'll show you what I'm gonna do with that after I do that. I think it was the red I didn't like with that, when I did the shape. I'll let that dry just a minute. This is that little awning that I put over here. And I saved this little orange, there's a little orange deal down here, and it almost looked like maybe there's a sign in the window, maybe. And I've got some broken whites. I'm gonna hang a black on it, or a dark on it, just to get your attention a little bit. Now let's see what my figures are doing. Here we got this guy, he's walking along here. Seems like they're all rushing out of town. I need a few of them that are going into town to shop. Maybe there's a fire and they're all leaving. And these fellas are going in. They're going evening shopping, I guess. And I'm just putting just a spot of dark on their heads. Got a little bit of
Two-faced.
yeah. We need a little bit more shadow to them. Can you see them? They're kind of small, but you know, you have to be really careful when you're doing street scenes. I have to be real careful every once in a while because my street scenes, several, I mean, that's one reason you do a study. All of a sudden you get back, you look at the streets and you've got these gigantic buildings and your people are too big. And it's like, it dwarfs your buildings down to about this big. And so, that's another thing studies do. So you kind of got to judge how tall those buildings are and make those figures just about right. Shadow under some of these. It doesn't take many lines to create a thought, or the brain doesn't. If the brain looks at the door over here, it looks at the top and says, "Oh, that's a door." It doesn't say, "Oh my goodness, that's a door all the way down." Now I'm just going through and I'm kind of looking at these little broken whites and what I want to do with those. And I'm putting just some marks across them. Just having fun with it. I've got to finish this up right here with something. Now let's come across, let's do this. Let's tie these buildings together now.
You gonna paint some underwear on those lines?
Yeah. Put the clothes out there on the. And I just kind of have to go back and just do some little touch-up stuff here and there. These little white areas over here, I don't know what they are. They could represent a window. Like I say, I'm trying to stay away from too much information over here. If I wanted to put something over in this area, the only thing I would do is pick up something almost that value and do something like that. I think values are one of the hardest things to learn, And the importance, they're extremely important. Now let me see if I can't doctor that just a little bit. And I've got to decide, I think I want this kind of dark right here. I've kind of lost my softness over here, so I'm just gonna put some water on that and just gently brush that a little bit. I think I kind of need some shadow shapes right here. So I'm going back to my cerulean blue. And I'm going to put just a little bit of magenta with that. And again, I'm not mixing cake batter, I'm just pushing those colors in together. To kind of come up with I'm going to put a little turquoise in with that too, because I want it to be kind of a gray blue. Let's see what I've got here. Yeah, that'll work. Now I'm gonna just soften that out to this edge. Let's put a little yellow ochre on that. I wish I hadn't put that red right there. I can scrub that up a lot more. Maybe if I got a clean sponge, it would help. Maybe that's the reason it didn't come out the last time. Now, I know that's wet, but let's see if we can't just barely tap in some color. I really don't want to stroke it too much with my brush. Another thing I do, I didn't bring it, but at home I keep little bottles of color watercolor in little bottles like this. And a lot of times rather than using my brush, because every time you touch that canvas, it lifts what you put down. So I use these a lot of times if I have to squirt just a little bit of color somewhere, and it works really well.
Where do you get those little bottles?
I get them at Drug Emporium or any of those places. It's just like anything else. Those that you used to buy a long time ago lasted a long time. The ones they make now don't last long enough for anything. So they get clogged up, you soak them and all that kind of stuff, and it's just better off just to go buy another one. I like what this is doing. I really like what that is doing here on this side. So I'm going to mess it up really good right here. Because I kind of like what that's doing. It's giving me, I'm looking for a shape. It's giving me kind of an interesting shape, but it doesn't say anything that holds your attention too long. It's just kind of a nice transition as we're going on up. I'm gonna leave that. I've got an area over here that needs to go. Now I'm squinting my eyes. I'm thinking, oh, I've got this white thing over here, and it also needs to disappear. So I'm gonna barely touch that and see if I can't. Let's put a yellow ochre with that also. And I'm just barely using the tip of my brush just to kind of touch that just a little bit. Yeah, that'll work. For now, anyway.
So she's making decisions.
Now I'm gonna come back and make just a few minor adjustments and I'm done. I kinda like what this little awning thing, whatever it did down here, it's kinda nice. That's the only thing about me. A lot of times I think, oh, that's really nice, let's put one more stroke on it, and then I've ruined it. And then you have to go back and try to correct it. This white area right here, I'm just gonna leave it just, no, well, let's see. Or just put some lettering on it. I think I'm done.